want to talk to you a wee bit about, so most people don't know, before you were at the front side, when you were the I Am Enough movement, you were actually doing a bit of work on rugby as a producer for O2 and things like that, and doing a bit of freelance work. How did you get into that situation? Because that's like a really interesting role. And the whole point of this podcast was I want to show people that there's more to sport than just the people we see playing on the TV. So I think that might be
Yeah,
quite a
there
cool thing
is.
for
I
people
think
to figure out.
yeah, it's a huge part of sport, and not just rugby. Is having obviously people involved in all sides of the game. Like I've been at O2 for a couple of years now, and obviously having that job, I went in and said, look, I know nothing about music. I know you've got the O2 partnerships and the academies and things like that, but the reality is rugby all day long. I can tell you a lot about rugby. I can tell you even more about women's rugby. Um, and that's the truth of it. So that's kind of how that all came about. And I think my boss at the time was very much like, well, we've got people that know about music, so in you come, kind of thing. And yeah, so I've been really lucky at O2. Like anything, pretty much anything to do with the England rugby side of things when it comes to like production and content, I fortunately get involved. So yeah, you get to spend a couple of hours with the England players every now and again, and I'm obviously skipping and hopping myself into that situation. So no, that's been great. And yeah, that was just after the I'm Enough movement, I think. Yeah,
Well, I'm so jealous of literally when you get it, because I see you. I've been following you on social media for enough, and you're just like, oh, another day at the office, and you'll be like walking yourself down the tunnel at Twickenham, and then I'll just see like a
yeah,
little
yeah.
camera and interview station set up, and I'm like, there's some people that get to live your dreams, and what's worse is they then accidentally taunt them in front of you for quite a while. So.
No, it is good fun, and everyone we've ever met's been incredible. Like there's not been one shoot I've done, hand on heart, that I haven't enjoyed, and everybody. I don't know if maybe it's rugby. We have a little bit less than other sports sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe there's a bit more of an appreciation. I don't know, but especially the girls. The women are incredible, and they will. Everybody's equal in that situation. So you get a really good chance to just have a chat with them and see what they think about things and learn their stories and stuff. Yeah, days like that, they don't happen that often. It might look like they do, but they don't. And they are incredible days when they do happen. So for me, if I can make more films just to hang out with them, then I'll do that.
I will back everything you've just said about the girls being so equal. Everything, they will always help anybody. Nothing's too much trouble. I
Yeah.
cannot back any. I think every message I've sent on social media has been either greeted with, "Yeah, I'd love to do it. Sorry, I can't," or "If you need me to put you in touch with this person, I will." Is everybody is so, like you said, just so welcoming, and then
It's always something. Yeah.
that's it. I try to make this podcast not strictly about rugby, but rugby guests keep coming on because that's what I know. And then, like you said, everybody will always turn around and go, "If I can help you, I will."
Yeah.
And that's,
Every time.
if you're listening to that approach, you might not be able to help somebody directly, but try to find somebody who can. So, going to talk about the big guns now. We're going to move on. The I Am Enough movement. How did that come about? Firstly, what is it for those that don't know? I can't imagine there's many watching this podcast that don't, but
You don't
I like to
know.
cover all. I like to cover all bases. You might be reaching new audiences. You're reaching rural Scotland now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
you ever been to? Have
Exactly.
you ever
I'm
been
in
to
for it.
rural Scotland?
I have not, but I'm sure your parents are listening.
That's 3/4 of the population. So there you go. No, so the I'm Enough movement. What was it, and how did it start?
Yeah, the short of it is Canterbury launched a new kit with Ireland, and when they did that, they used the male players as the models for the kit, jersey, shorts, the works, and for the female kit, for the women's jersey, they superimposed it onto models. So that is how it all began. A player tweeted about it, just being like, "Look, huge missed opportunity here. How could you possibly think this was a good decision?" And not only have you not used the players, but you've superimposed the kit onto the players. You could have very easily superimposed it onto them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what sparked the conversation. There was a lot of people online and on Twitter, and the dregs of Twitter bring themselves to the forefront in moments like this to tell you how women don't deserve to be models for their kit. They're not appealing enough to other women for them to want to buy things. That female forwards aren't good looking enough to be models. Like comments like that. Or they actually said that forwards aren't good looking enough to model kit. And I went and found a picture of Joe Marler modeling a kit. And while he's doing it, what's it got to do with whether or not you think he's good looking? It's because he's good at his job. That's why
Yeah.
he's there. And your opinion of somebody's attractiveness isn't valid in this conversation. But anyway, so that kind of sparked all this. And looking at it for me, I was like, there's kids on the internet, and whether or not 13 is the age limit or whatever it is, we know that that's really used. There are kids on the internet who are seeing this kind of commentary and who are able to see it. And if there's the next Maggie Alfonsi that wants to pick up a rugby ball, sees some arsehole on Twitter say that women don't deserve to play sport, don't deserve to play rugby, women don't deserve anything in society, they might believe that.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up thinking I didn't deserve to play sport, or I didn't really have a space like that. And it's bad enough getting it from, kids in school and stuff, because kids are assholes and it happens.
Yeah.
But
kids are horrible.
yeah, they are.
Kids are horrible.
It's not great, but they are, and that's true. And if the other place you go to find sort of more sources of information and inspiration are the internet, and the first things you come across are men telling women that they don't deserve anything, that they shouldn't play sport, that they're ugly or they're fat or whatever it may be, then how do you change that narrative? And how do you prove to them that somebody does care about what they want to do and what they want to be? And it kind of just sparked this moment in my mind, and I was like, I remember that feeling, and I thought kids were doing it better. I thought the next generation was doing a bit better than we did, but it turned out I was clearly wrong. And I wanted to find a way to hopefully just make that change, and hope that one girl growing up knew that she could play sport, maybe rugby. I'd be really pleased if it would be rugby, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't care. Be whoever you want to be. And if I can create a piece of the internet that says so, then that was kind of how it happened. And I was on my way to the gym when that sort of phrase "I am enough" kind of came to me. I was like, well, I am. And I think the players should know that they are too. So that's how that phrase specifically was kind of designed as such. And then started messaging people basically on Instagram, just saying, look, on Thursday, I'm gonna have this movement, hashtag I am enough. Just to counter the fact that we're being told that we don't deserve to play rugby or model our kit. Post a picture of you, whether it's in your kit, whether it's not, whether whether it's your hair done or your makeup done or whatever, whatever represents you. And yeah, just post that on Thursday. So people did. Basically, Instagram blocked me. I sent so many messages that weren't being replied to fast enough that Instagram blocked me for, I think, like 24 hours at a time or something. Yeah. So yeah, and that's kind of how it happened, and it went far beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It went all over the world. People from Australia, New Zealand, the USA, Hong Kong, like all over Central Europe, everyone got involved. And it's not just international players, grassroots players, and for me, it's really key. Grassroots players were involved in that. So, sorry, that wasn't the short version at all, but that is what happened and how it happened and why it happened, really. And that was August 2020.
So it was incredibly well put, and I loved your description of the horrible people because you just went straight for it and went, they are arseholes, and there is no two ways about it. It's a weird way. It's a weird way to announce that you're a misogynist by talking on Twitter like that. But if that's what people do to get, if people don't fancy going to work on Monday, I suppose that's an avenue they can take. Because if you're just coming back, you don't deserve anything. But I love the fact I had no idea that it was not pre-planned. But you messaged a few people and got a few things going. I thought it was just a spur of the moment thing and took off. But I love that we're actually going to show that this is a togetherness thing as well, of getting a few people to just go, it's not one person. Because I originally didn't know that, and I thought it was you, and I was going to ask you, I was like, did it? I mean, you still got an overwhelming amount of support you never expected to receive, but how did it feel watching it go like not wildfire because it was controlled, but the expression.
Well, it was
wildfire.
It grew, yeah. It was so much that I had to actually turn my phone off at one point just to try and handle the moment, because I'd never ever had anything like that, and fortunately, because I did come into the film, I was actually much better at handling that situation. But it was unstoppable, and at that time I didn't really use Twitter either, but it had gone to Twitter. So I just turned Twitter on to see what happened, I think, and I was like, oh no, I wasn't prepared for that. But that was sort of how it all came about. And yeah, it was incredible. And I think more than anything, it was amazing to see that it really resonated with so many people. It wasn't just rugby union, it was rugby league and other people that I spoke to, that maybe friends on Facebook and stuff, because it was all over that too. And they just said, I can't believe it, and I get it, because it wasn't necessarily it's not necessarily a rugby feeling. It isn't a rugby feeling to feel unwelcome in a place you want to be. So people who don't like sport and who don't like rugby got it too. And that's sort of what I think was probably uh, the most wonderful part, is that everybody felt together through the whole thing, and that was really the aim, was to give everybody a space. So
it was more of building up than it was of trying to tear something down
yeah,
from somebody
exactly.
else. How did you feel when it's like you just said that when the other sports got involved? Were you
It
just
was
like did
it
it
was
kind of
nice.
were you just kind of just like holy I'm like we're doing something here.
Yeah, I think it was just the validation that the point we're trying to get across was there, and it wasn't about attack or blame. It was just about empowerment, and that's really what comes through, is that it empowered people to find a voice that they hadn't thought they had, and
Mhm.
now they know they've got it.
Okay, and then following on from that, what was the emotion when you saw Canterbury going? Do you know what? Everybody's right here. We've chucked this, and we are holding our hands up. Was that I don't want to say, because it's not like we said. We're just talking about building. We're not trying to tear things down. You're not trying to. I suppose you're getting a win, but you're not trying to win at the expense of somebody losing. If that makes sense, is how I sort of
Um,
see it on. Because I'm very much an outside. Like I'm an advocate and an ally, but I was very much a not. I don't know. You're not on the fence, but I was an outsider looking in. I guess I was a fan. Is probably the more accurate description of it. I was watching a team that I wanted to succeed. So how did it feel, the emotions, when Canterbury posted what they posted saying we're sorry?
yeah, so I'd actually messaged Canterbury in the
Mm-hmm.
build up to, and I said, look, you're actually going to get caught in this crossfire. And the reason I said that is because they're not the first brands to do this, and they're not going to be the last, but they are going to get caught in something quite big around it. And to
Mm-hmm.
give them the sole blame of an action like this technically isn't fair, because they're not, like I said, they're not the only person to make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to give them warning to know what was coming, and really the opportunity to do the right thing. They could have just ignored me. They could have said nothing,
Yeah.
but they didn't. We had a big conversation about it. It gave them the chance to readdress what they were going to do, and it meant on the day when we all posted, they could post too. So they had forewarning,
Mm-hmm.
and what they did was express the fact that they would obviously never do it again, but also that how they would be better, and make sure there's always men and women in every campaign, and that everything is done equally, and it's done together. And for that, some brands would just pretend like it didn't happen. Ireland certainly
Yeah.
never said anything.
True.
So,
Very true. Well, I
so
suppose looking
actually,
at how the thing went with Munster the other day, yeah, we'll
yeah,
gloss
I'm
over that.
surprised. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they stood up and they held their hands up and said it won't happen again, and we will look to be better. And now they have three female ambassadors. One's Zainab Alima, who's in No Woman No Try. One's
Mm-hmm.
Ellie Kildunn, who plays for England, and one is Woman Dan, plays for New Zealand. So they've made a real difference to their culture, and ever since, I've spoken to them a lot since, and they are doing things better and differently. So look, if Canterbury, if anything, out of the whole situation, deserve actually applause for their response to it, because there are plenty of brands who just sort of go,
Yeah.
"Oh, just leave it, it'll quieten down." So yeah, I applaud them for that.
No, do you know what? I completely agree. I think it is important to hold your hands up, and because I know from previous jobs, I know there are women that work at Canterbury, and they were equally on your side as much as anything. They said what we're doing isn't right, so I'm glad to hear it. And I don't know. I could never, as I said, I'm almost an outsider on this situation, supporting from the
Mm.
stands, but I was very much on Team I'm Enough, and I still always will.
Yeah, no, so me too, me too.
Shocked, never thought.